I still remember seeing the news, a viral debate sparked by modern pop singers arguing over who had the last R&B album to hit #1 on the charts. Yet, standing back from the noise, I wondered, what happened to real R&B music? It is the foundation, the very soul that defined a generation. The industry may try to replace it, but no one can truly get rid of a genre responsible for the smooth R&B soul music that set the mood for countless late nights and, as the saying goes, millions of babies was made off R&B music. That music was the soundtrack to the good old days, playing all day and all night when families gathered to cook, play cards, and share life together. In that sacred lineage of soul and R&B, we remember the greatest female groups, the Supremes, the Emotions, SWV, but one legendary R&B trio stood out, not just for their talent, but for the blood that bound them. They were the Jones Girls, three sisters who could harmonize and blend their voices into a single, perfect sound, a sound so beautiful it captured the ear of the greatest producers. This is the story of the Jones Girls, and the price they paid for that perfect harmony. The story of the Jones sisters begins not on a glamorous stage, but in the heart of the American auto industry, Detroit, Michigan. Shirley, born in 1953, Brenda in 1954, and Valorie in 1956, were blood sisters, a bond that would become the core strength, and sometimes the fragility, of their sound. Growing up in Detroit meant Motown was the air they breathed. Their idols were the very definition of elegance and sound, Diana Ross and the Supremes. The girls dreamed of that polished, glamorous Motown sound, but their earliest education came from a deeper, more spiritual source. The true foundation of the Jones Girls was laid by their mother, Mary Frazier Jones. Mary was a woman of pioneering spirit and formidable talent, being one of the first black gospel singers to sign a contract with RCA Records back in the 1950s, the very same day Little Richard signed his. Their mother also served as the choir director for their church, understanding implicitly the power of harmony. She realized early that her three daughters could naturally harmonize, blending their distinct voices into a beautiful, unified sound. Mary Frazier Jones used music as both an art form and a shield. She kept her daughters busy, rehearsing them every single day. This relentless training, rooted in the church, was designed to keep the young women out of trouble, safely away from the bad boys and the temptations of the street. They performed alongside their mother as Mary Frazier Jones and the Jones Sisters, traveling throughout Michigan, Ohio, and Illinois. In the gospel circuit, the young R&B trio shared stages with future legends like the Winans and the Clark Sisters. It was in these sacred halls that their incredible discipline and vocal blending were forged. Yet, as they moved into their early teens, around 12 or 13, the secular world began to call to them, a whisper of R&B and soul music that was irresistible. They found a recording studio owner who asked their mother if she could record a couple of R&B songs with them, a turning point that marked their entry into a new kind of spotlight. They soon caught the attention of producer McKinley Jackson, who saw their potential beyond the local scene and wanted to introduce them to the giants of Motown. The sisters found themselves quickly thrust into the world of professional backing vocals. They worked with the legendary Holland-Dozier-Holland, the architects behind many Motown hits who had since broken away from Berry Gordy to form their own labels, Invictus and Hot Wax. The Jones Girls became the uncredited power behind the sound of new artists like Frida Payne and Honey Cone. They also dropped their own early, non-charting singles like Come Back and Taste of the Honey, on smaller labels, trying to find their voice as headliners. Their journey continued with Curtis Mayfield, who loved their sound after they did background work for his group, The Impressions. Mayfield signed them to his Curtis Records, where they released singles such as, If You Don't Love Me No More. Yet, fate was still holding its breath. Mayfield never released the full album he recorded with them. It was a common hurdle for aspiring artists in the business, undeniable talent, yet unfulfilled potential. But their reputation for pristine harmony was spreading across the industry. Soon, they were sought after to do background for icons like Aretha Franklin. Then came the opportunity that put them in the path of destiny. Diana Ross needed backup singers for her London tour. The Jones Girls auditioned, and when Diana Ross heard them harmonize, she was immediately blown away, hiring them on the spot. Working with the legendary Diana Ross was invaluable training. They were up close with the royalty they had admired in Detroit. But Ross, a seasoned star, knew instantly that her backup singers were too good to stay backup singers. She predicted that it was only a matter of time before someone offered the sisters their own record deal. And she was absolutely right. Destiny was waiting just around the corner in Philadelphia, preparing to give this Detroit R&B trio their rightful place in the world of Philly soul. The moment of destiny arrived in Philadelphia. The sisters were on tour with Diana Ross, performing at a show in Philly, and among the audience were the undisputed architects of soul music, Kenneth Gamble and Leon Huff. Gamble and Huff, the founders of Philadelphia International Records, PAR, were actively looking for a female vocal group after a falling out with their previous group, the Sweethearts. They were supposed to be watching Diana Ross, the headliner, but their attention was irresistibly drawn away from the superstar. Diana Ross, with her innate star quality, often used her costume changes as a moment for the Jones Girls to shine. While she was backstage, the sisters, Shirley, Brenda, and Valorie, would take center stage and sing. Gamble and Huff were not just impressed, they were utterly captivated by the flawless, unified blend of the trio's voices. They quickly realized that the talent they sought wasn't the star on stage, but the powerful force behind her. Right after the show, Gamble and Huff offered the Jones Girls a contract to sign with PAR. This was their moment. They officially changed their name from the Jones Sisters to the Jones Girls and stepped into a new pantheon of R&B legends, becoming instant fixtures in the famed Philly soul sound. They joined a roster of titans including the O'Jays, Teddy Pendergrass, Billy Paul, and Patti LaBelle. Their journey at PAR began, ironically, with more background work. The sisters were so skilled, they became the go-to vocal foundation for other artists until Gamble and Huff felt their time was truly right. Finally, in early 1979, the sisters released their self-titled debut album. The album soared on the strength of a single track that defined their sound and cemented their place in history, You Gonna Make Me Love Somebody Else. The song exploded, hitting number 5 on the soul singles chart, climbing to number 12 on the disco chart, and achieving a rare feat for a soul record at the time, reaching number 38 on the highly competitive Billboard Hot 100. The single sold over 1 million copies, certifying the album gold. This established them instantly as one of the most dominant female R&B acts, a premier R&B trio whose voices could not be denied. The sheer power of that debut hit is felt even decades later. Modern hip-hop producers still turn to it for inspiration. Jay-Z famously sampled the song for his track, The City Is Mine, featuring Blackstreet, on his In My Lifetime, Volume 1 album. Following this explosive success, the Jones Girls delivered their second classic album in 1980, titled At Peace with Woman. This album further deepened their roots in the Philly soul landscape, hitting number 7 on the top soul album charts. It included another major hit, I Just Love the Man, which peaked at number 9 on the U.S. soul charts. This track was so beloved that it was remade by the group Everyday Emotions for House Party 3. But perhaps the most enduring legacy from this era, cherished by true soul connoisseurs, came from their third album in 1981, Get As Much Love As You Can. The single, Nights Over Egypt, became one of their most celebrated tracks, a definitive cult classic that transcended the charts. Even today, the distinct, sophisticated beat of Nights Over Egypt is recognized instantly, a testament to the sisters' versatility beyond just straight R&B. By this point, the Jones Girls were firmly established, proving that their harmony was more than just a background sound. It was the pure, unadulterated essence of Philly soul, setting the benchmark for any subsequent R&B trio. They had found their unique space, transitioning from Detroit church singers to international stars under the masterful direction of Gamble and Huff. But the music business is rarely a fairy tale, and the pressure of fame, combined with the tumultuous nature of the industry, soon began to fracture the foundation they had so carefully built. The brilliant success of the Jones Girls masked a turbulent reality beneath the polished Philly soul surface. By 1981, after releasing 3 classic albums, the sisters reached a major impasse with Gamble and Huff. The contract for the R&B trio was up, and they decided not to re-sign, citing persistent disagreements over the financial side of the business. In a bid to control their destiny, they signed with RCA Records and released the album on Target. However, this album introduced a radically different sound than what fans were used to, and it failed to gain traction on the charts. To make matters worse, Gamble and Huff, seeking to capitalize on the sisters' continued popularity, confusingly released an album of unreleased material titled Keep It Comin' at the exact same time. This former material actually outsold the sisters' new RCA album, causing market confusion and deep frustration. The momentum was lost, and the sister act decided to take a much-needed break. Brenda moved to Atlanta, and Valorie briefly pursued college. But the story of the Jones Girls was far from over. Eldest sister Shirley Jones returned to Gamble and Huff, but this time as a solo artist. Her gamble paid off dramatically in 1986 with her album Always in the Mood. The lead single, Do You Get Enough Love, shot straight to number 1 on the U.S. R&B charts for 2 weeks. The album was not just a domestic success, it was massive overseas, particularly in the UK, reaffirming the enduring connection the Jones family had with international soul music lovers. Yet, behind the beautiful harmonies and solo stardom lay a dark, unspoken truth. A book exploring the record industry later referred to the Jones Girls as the most dysfunctional group in soul music at the time. The intense pressure of the industry, the relentless touring, the financial disputes, and the constant demand for perfection, had taken a devastating toll on the 3 sisters. The music became a cover for deep personal struggles. The account revealed that Valorie battled a crippling pill problem, and Brenda struggled with a dependency on alcohol. The unity of the R&B trio, which sounded so perfect on hit records like You Gonna Make Me Love Somebody Else, could not protect them from the harsh realities and temptations that often haunt musical brilliance. After a brief reunion to release an album in the UK in 1992, the dream of a full comeback was tragically shattered. On December 2, 2001, Valorie Jones, the youngest sister, passed away at the age of 45. While the specific cause of death remains officially unclear, it is believed to have been related to the struggles with alcoholism and depression that she faced in her life. The silent, internal suffering of the once high-flying artist was suddenly made public. The passing of Valorie was the final note for the Jones girls as an active trio. In the aftermath, Shirley Jones became the steadfast torchbearer of the family legacy. She continued to perform, keeping the sacred sound of Philly soul and the name of her sisters alive. But the grief and the hardship were far from over, and more tragedy would strike the family in the years to come. The passing of Valorie Jones meant the permanent end of the powerful vocal blend of the Jones girls as the world knew them. Yet, the family tragedy was not finished. After Valorie's death, Brenda Jones dedicated herself to raising Valorie's son and briefly faced personal hardship, including a period of homelessness before regaining her footing. Then, heartbreak struck again. On April 3, 2017, Brenda Jones, the middle sister, was tragically killed at the age of 62. She was attempting to cross a street in Wilmington, Delaware, when she was struck by multiple vehicles. The shock of losing two-thirds of the iconic R&B trio to such devastating circumstances was a stark reminder of the fragile lives behind the glamorous music. Despite the personal turmoil and the fact that their commercial peak as an R&B trio was relatively brief, their influence on the American music landscape remains profound. The Jones girls set a standard for sister groups with their innate, flawless vocal synchronization, paving the way for acts like SWV, Total, and TLC. Their signature hits continue to resonate and are woven into the fabric of modern R&B and hip-hop. The defining record, You Gonna Make Me Love Somebody Else, has been perpetually sampled and covered, securing its place as an enduring classic that transcends genre. Furthermore, their tracks were continually revisited by other artists. The group Xscape had a major hit covering Who Can I Run To, and Everyday Emotions brought I Just Love the Man to a new generation. Beyond the American charts, their sound achieved legendary status overseas. The sisters held a powerful connection with soul music fans in the UK, a connection so deep that the UK became the primary market for later releases and solo work by Shirley Jones. Her 1986 #1 R&B hit, Do You Get Enough Love, was particularly huge internationally. This overseas reverence affirmed that their smooth, sophisticated sound was the global gold standard of Philly soul. The legacy of the Jones girls is a dual one, a beautiful testament to the power of sisterhood and the perfect R&B vocal blend, tragically contrasted with the harsh realities of the music business and personal suffering. It is a story of incredible musical contribution, carried forward now solely by Shirley Jones, the enduring pillar of the family's melodic history. The story of the Jones girls is more than a tale of hit records. It is a profound lesson about the nature of a bond that was both musical and familial. They were the epitome of the classic R&B trio, proving that a sisterhood of blood could create a harmony more powerful than any studio arrangement. Their definitive work under the Philly soul banner, particularly the timeless groove of You Gonna Make Me Love Somebody Else, remains the gold standard for vocal sophistication and emotional depth. The loss of Valorie in 2001 and Brenda in 2017 casts a shadow over their glittering catalog, reminding us that even the most beautiful music can hide immense personal struggle with addiction, depression, and the harsh randomness of fate. Their struggle against the industry's pressures and personal demons, the silent burdens they carried, make their triumphant music even more haunting and resonant. They did not win every fight, but the dignity and heart they poured into every note still echo across the decades. Today, the responsibility of preserving this magnificent legacy rests with Shirley Jones. She is the last voice of that original, perfect R&B trio, continuing to perform and keep the Philly soul flame alive. Her enduring career, highlighted by her own #1 hit, demonstrates the resilience required to survive in a challenging industry. Shirley has hinted that the complete, untold story of the Jones Girls may soon be featured on the acclaimed music series Unsung, finally bringing full recognition to their contributions and addressing the lingering questions about their lives. We must honor the sisters not just by listening to the hits, but by supporting Shirley Jones as she carries their banner. Download and stream their music, and remember the warmth and truth those three voices brought into our lives. If this story, of talent, tragedy, and the unbreakable bond of sisters, reminds you of a time when R&B was the voice of the soul, share your thoughts below. What is your favorite track by the Jones Girls? We read every comment, because every story needs to be heard. Thank you for listening, and may the sweet sound of Philly soul keep the music of the Jones Girls alive forever.